Alright, so on most basic level, flying includes being in the air, of course, with wings, and there's aerodynamic forces that keep you in the air, and you manipulate those aerodynamic forces to steer your airplane. There are three axes on which the airplane maneuvers. There is yaw axis, which is controlled by the rudder in the back, and that's left and right, like a steering wheel in a car. There is roll axis, which is controlled by ailerons on the edge of the wings, which move the airplane in a rolling fashion as such. There are elevators in the back, which control the pitch of the aircraft, the nose up, nose down attitude. There are three basic kinds of aircraft. There are fixed wing powered aircraft. That would be a normal small plane, large plane, which you fly on. It's powered and it's fixed wing, not helicopter. There's fixed wing non-powered, such as gliders. There are also helicopters. For aerobatics, propeller aircraft are the best. They have a gyroscopic benefit that comes from the propeller spinning. It adds stability in nose-high attitudes, and really any attitude. It adds stability that you don't get with a jet aircraft. Jet aircraft also fly in formation generally when you are performing aerobatics. The negatives of this is that you're in closer proximity to the airplanes, it's more dangerous, and it also limits your range of maneuvers. Also, with jets, you are performing more G's. Since you're at a higher speed, it's more G's, okay, and for a longer time. G-forces are the inertial effect on pilots and the aircraft of maneuvers. This is when the aircraft is moving, but you're being pushed into the seat or pulled from the seat. With positive G-forces, you are being pushed into the seat. This would be, for example, if you weighed 200 pounds, okay, and you were pulling 2 G's, you would weigh 400 pounds. The aircraft also, if it weighed 1,000 pounds, would weigh 2,000 pounds. This is why the aircraft which do aerobatic performances need to be very structurally sound and upkept on a very regular basis. The risk of G-forces is blackouts, okay? When you are pulling positive G's, if you pull enough, on average it's around 6 or 7. For competitive flying, it can be, 7 or 8, higher slightly. The blood is pulled from your head and it pools at the bottom of your body, and you can't see as well. It's act almost like a shade closing in over your eyes. This, if you do for too long and for too high G-forces, will result in you blacking out. A blackout, obviously bad when you're flying an airplane, can last as long as 10 seconds, and you are disoriented when you first recover from the blackout, and so the effects of the blackout can last on average 20 to 30 seconds. At low altitude, this is a generally bad thing because the ground is there and you're there and it doesn't mix that well. Pulling negative G's, you get red out, which is where the blood is actually pulled up into your head and you see red instead of black. But same effect, you can also get unconsciousness from it. Altitude for aerobatics. Generally, aerobatics for most people, you are doing above 5,000 feet. It's just aerobatics. There's no real risk of ground. You're not doing stunts. You're doing your aerobatic maneuvers, and that's it. There's no real risk with that because you've got so much space to recover. For air show performances, you're generally below 2,000 feet, and you're stressed. There's a lot of things going on, and if you don't check your altitude, you can crash. And so what air shows have done is they have limitations on the pilot for how low the pilot is allowed to go over the ground. And this adds a safety net, and as the pilot proves his proficiency, the minimum altitude decreases at which he can fly. Jets also fly at higher speed, which increases the G-forces. Propeller aircraft generally fly at lower speeds. You can perform tighter turns, more impressive maneuvers really for an air show, and it's also in a smaller space. You don't need to have a 15-mile radius area clear if you do aerobatics. And they're also much cheaper to maintain. The engines in aerobatic planes, if you're doing competitive flying, which includes multiple different levels, but in the unlimited category, your engine is replaced from every 3 weeks to a month, which is very expensive, and you also have to keep your airplane safe to fly. The wings and spars have to be not bent by anything you do, and so it's a very expensive procedure to go through. Low-level aerobatics, such as air shows, can be extremely dangerous, not just because of the distraction, but because you're generally doing even more Gs because it's an air show. Whereas if you're up in altitude, you're not really limited by staying below a certain altitude, so people can see you, and there's not the ground right there, so you don't have to pull as many Gs to get out of it. Aerobatic flying is what I want to do as a job, or if it comes to that point, and if not, just as a hobby, something that I'd like to pursue and hopefully be able to fund through whatever job that I have. And that is aerobatic flying. And if you guys are interested, I have a prop here. It's just my knee board. So, thank you very much.